Welcome to Coffee with Joe for Thursday, December 2nd, 2010. The federal deficit is all the talk these days. Obama's Deficit Commission is releasing preliminary reports, and the final report is due out any time now. All
Yeah.
kinds of ideas about cutting spending. Our old senator up here in Vermont has had an essay contest on Facebook. The entries were actually due in by November 30th, and I just found out about it today. So we're going to post a response. This is going to be a video essay to Bernie Sanders. He's wanting to have a serious conversation about how we move towards a balanced budget in a way that is fair to working people and the middle class.
A balanced budget.
So a balanced federal budget. What does a balanced home budget mean? A balanced home budget means that you don't spend any more in a year than you bring in income. So a balanced federal budget would mean the federal government doesn't spend any more than it actually brings in taxes. How close are we to a balanced budget right now? Well, the deficit is projected to be 1.35 trillion this year. So
Right.
that means either we got to cut 1.35 trillion in spending or increase taxes 1.35 trillion to truly balance the budget. And nobody is actually talking about anything that radical.
Right.
The other
Right.
thing
Right. Right. Right.
that these conversations never talk about balancing the budget is they don't recognize the relationship between the federal deficit and the money supply.
Exactly. First of all, okay, if Bernie, who's always attacking the maldistribution of wealth, he usually referring to it as income disparity. He's saying the top 1% has as much income as the bottom 50%. Pete, and he says, "Boy, if we could do something about that." Bernie, the reason that we have that income disparity is because the people that control the monetary system and the money supply get it first. They produce the money. They create the money. They create the debts onto the people that have to pay them back, and they get to collect the interest or the rents for using the money system. So naturally, they're going to feed themselves first. How do they do that? Well, through deregulation, Pete, all they've been doing is just creating new means by which to accumulate wealth at the top 1%.
A lot of
So,
creativity has gone into creating a lot of financial gimmickry in the last 20 years. Smoke and mirrors. These are our best and brightest, Joe, are going where the money is.
right. And Pete, so the corollary to that, okay, is it doesn't go to wages. Everybody says that the real part of the GDP that's gone to wages hasn't really increased since 1975. Okay, and the debts that the bankers have created to create the money supply and all these fancy debt thingies, Pete,
Goes into their
have gone up.
wages.
Yeah, right, goes into their wages, but the debts have grown astronomically. Okay, so we have the problems of the debt for the households and the businesses being what it is, and then no money going into wages that's going to support paying off that debt. So, Bernie, you got to solve that problem. You alluded to it as part of our inequality, but it's related to the deficit and the debt, and this is why. Because the deficits that we have, what are they? They are shortages between taxation and expenses. Why do we have that shortage as opposed to being able to fill that shortage with real money that the government creates? And the answer is by a law that's on the books. It's what they call the government's budgetary constraint. And it says that in the process of adopting a budget, the government must either tax to meet its expenditures or borrow to meet its expenditures. It takes away from the government what Abraham Lincoln called the supreme prerogative of the government and sovereign people, which is the right to create money, Pete. Okay? Now, Bernie, is Abraham Lincoln right or is Abraham Lincoln wrong? We don't have that prerogative anymore. We've legislated it away from people like yourself, Bernie, and we've legislated it away from the people through the Congress by having the government budgetary constraint. So we are hog-tied from solving the problem unless we solve the money problem, the monetary system problem. And we solve the monetary system problem by moving away from a system where all the money is created as a debt, payable at interest, and move it into a situation where the government has the right, eliminating that budgetary constraint, Pete, and putting in place the right for the government to create that money debt-free and put it into existence to pay for the goods and services from the government that the people are demanding.
Isn't there anybody up there on Capitol Hill that Bernie could give a call to who might just have some shovel-ready legislation for monetary reform?
Definitely. I mean, as far as we know, Pete, Dennis Kucinich has
The
been
American
drafting.
Monetary and Financial Security Act.
Yeah, whatever we call it, he's been looking at it for a number of years. So the thing is, Bernie, that actually the solutions are out there that that you seem to be looking for, but you're not going to find them in the traditional economic school.
Balancing the budget isn't going to solve the problem.
No, it's not. It's not
Given
going
the
to solve
monetary
anything.
system that we have.
Exactly. We need to fix the money system, and then we'll fix the rest of it.
Joe, we're going viral with this message.
Okay, buddy.
If not on this video, on one of them. See you
Okay,
next
buddy.
week.
Okay, Pete. Thanks.